Marina Miron, she is a researcher at the War Studies Department at King's College London. Thanks very much for being with us. I want to ask you, first of all, where do you see these talks going at this point, particularly given the national security strategy that the US announced just a day ago?
Good afternoon. Well, it's a great question because from what we're seeing, the United States is trying to secure some sort of a peace, be it a ceasefire, be it a peace agreement. It doesn't matter. It matters only if the war stops. And as a national security strategy has demonstrated that the United States is willing to resume strategic relations with Russia. And therefore, for the United States, it's paramount to stop the war in Ukraine and deal with its domestic problems and develop its foreign policy without those distractions. Now, the problem is, however, is that Ukraine, backed by its European allies and the United Kingdom, do not really like this proposal. But the question is, do they have any leverage in this, given the fact that the United States holds all the cards in this specific scenario on the one hand, and on the other hand, the Russians are having the upper hand when it comes to battlefield successes, even if they are not rapid, but they are incremental, they are mounting. And coupled with political volatility now in Ukraine, the situation simply doesn't look very good. So it looks like the US might push through and get Ukraine to sign this deal, or else it might try to get rid of Zelenskyy using this corruption scandal.
So if we look to these particular talks in London right now with the European leaders and the Ukrainian president, what kind of leverage does Europe have in all of this to support Ukraine?
Well, the issue with the European and the United Kingdom is that they do not have any leverage over the United States. And they do not have the capabilities, the military capabilities necessary to support Ukraine. For instance, the space-based intelligence is being provided by the United States. Neither the UK nor the European counterparts have any space capabilities that would be able to supplement what the US is providing. And so if the US pulls out completely, the Europeans will not be able to fill that gap. Yes, a lot of money is being invested in Ukraine, and the European countries have been also upping their own defense spending, but it's all happening simultaneously. So on the one hand, the US is signaling that it's tired of the war in Ukraine, it wants to stop it, resume relations with Russia. On the other hand, it's signaling that it's taking a backseat when it comes to its NATO obligations under Article 5, and that is very disconcerting for the Europeans, who need to see how they are going to ensure their own security at the same time while helping Ukraine. And I'm afraid there is not enough time and there is not enough resources that can be converted into capability.
But we've been down this road before with the Trump administration, haven't we? Because he seems to be going back and forth to be more sympathetic to the Russian position and then going back to full support for Ukraine. And it's been said that he really takes the position of the last person who had his ear. So is there a possibility then that Trump could go back to a stronger support for Ukraine?
Well, I don't see that possibility simply because we have to understand that for Trump it is important to further American interests. And as far as his changing position is concerned, he also has to satisfy some of the voices within his own party. So he's trying to compromise, and that's why we always see this shift. First, he's more leaning towards Russia, then he's leaning more towards Ukraine, and he's walking a very tight line. But when it comes to the overall policies, regardless of what Trump has been saying, it has been very consistent, and now his insistence on ending this war in light of the new national security strategy, which outlines the U.S. Adversaries, as well as the explicit mention of Europe as being the kind of the weak link, I think that it's very unlikely that the tone might change, but whether it will change when it comes to sanctions, to actually using any sort of coercive instruments against Russia or increasing help towards Ukraine, that is a completely different matter. So the rhetoric might change, but the actual support to Ukraine, I don't think that it's going to increase.
Good to get your analysis on this. Marina Miron joining us there. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.